Hey guys, Happy New Year. Here we are, 2026. I hope you had a great Christmas and I hope your New Year's is going great so far. I pray that you guys have health and blessings and this will be the best year yet. January is typically a month where we look back at what we did in 2025 and have some highlight episodes, best of episodes. So I hope you enjoy our best of looking back at 2025 and then get ready. First week of February, all new episodes. Have a great year.
Welcome to Wheels, Deals, and Meals, where we talk all things good food, good business, and good cars. And now, here is your host, Arnold Gasita, founder and CEO of Petra Automotive Products. Let's roll.
So you got a bachelor's degree in psychology.
Yeah.
And then have you done any more after that?
Yeah. I have an MBA, master's with a focus in finance. So
Okay.
I figured out I like the numbers thing, I like the economics thing, so I decided.
So where did that stretch us? You start college.
Yeah.
And you're focusing on psychology. Where did that change?
Yeah, no, great question. So it happened pretty organically. So I move on campus and I wanted to get involved in some sort of campus activity, want to get involved in something. And ended up being really intrigued by student government. Just the whole process. I had done Voice State when I was in high school, which is kind of an immersive week-long experience where you simulate a state government. We did it at the campus of University of Texas. And I didn't realize how much that had an impact on me until much later in life. When I look back, I was like, why did I have any sort of interest in government? And I think it really spurred there because of this experience at high school. So get on campus, get involved in Student Government Association. And there's this program at the University of Houston. It's now the Hobby School of Public Affairs, but at the time it was the Center for Public Policy. They have an internship program. That internship program places students into government internships. So I did the government internship and got placed with a city council member that happened to be the chairman of the Budget and Fiscal Affairs Committee. And his chief of staff happened to be a finance wizard. He was a former trader in Dallas and really came from the private sector, had a strong financial acumen. So I was the new intern making coffee, but I was consistent about making the coffee. And it tasted so bad that everybody knew I made the coffee because they're like, well, obviously Alex made it.
Alex's coffee.
Yeah, this is Alex's coffee. So I did that internship, and at the end of it, they asked me if I would stay on part-time. So I stayed involved in student government. I was the elected speaker of the Student Body Senate at U of H, and then also did 10 hours a week at City Hall interning. And that exposure to those.
So you were doing that while you were going to college?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then realized that I liked numbers, I liked economics. I became a loan officer. So I was my first, real job was loan officer right before
At a mortgage company?
Yeah, at a mortgage company, EquiCap Mortgage, off of Westheimer, right before the subprime lending crisis, where if you had a pulse, you got a loan.
That's right.
So I did.
The whole Washington Mutual thing.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yeah, I was 19 years old. I was a loan officer, and worked my way through college, got some Pell Grants, took out.
So that was your real job during college?
I had several real jobs during college, but my real job, yes, was being a loan officer. I actually got paid by being the speaker of the Student Body Senate. I got a small stipend and got an office, and then did the internship.
So that gave you the bug?
That gave me the bug. I was fascinated by...
What was your first job? Whenever, 13, 14, 16, what was your first job?
Mowing lawns. Yeah, mowing neighborhood lawns. Yeah.
And then when you graduated from college, what was your first job?
So at the time that I graduated, this was post subprime lending crisis. The housing market was not very good. There were no jobs. Right? So I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I toyed with
You got the bug of accounting. You're a loan officer as your first kind of real job.
Yeah, but that was no longer a job after.
Right. And you got a psychology degree.
Yeah.
So now you graduated. You got to try to figure this thing out.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, so tell me about Adrian Garcia. I want to know how you became you.
Man,
I was born and
it was all accidental, man. No, look, I guess I would first begin by saying that, look, where I grew up, which is not too far from here, I always refer to it as a tough neighborhood where tough things happen. I was just writing, in fact, recalling how guys I grew up with are either dead or have made a visit to either the county jail or to the state prison system, or unfortunately are still on the same porch steps that we used to hang out on. For me to be here coming from that is pretty incredible. So the good Lord is either very, very kind, or he has an
So
incredible...
you were born in Houston,
born and raised, only American born in my
raised
family.
in this area, not too far
Yep.
from downtown Houston.
Yep.
Tough area.
Near North Side, yeah.
Tough area. Why would you say you didn't go down the route to some of your friends and neighbors?
I was getting to that, and it's because of my parents. You know, my father raised 5 boys, one girl, and if you would talk to any of the guys that I used to hang around with back then, they will tell you that if you wanted to find Adrian, all you had to do was look down, because my dad was an auto mechanic. Had me working on cars.
Love your dad already.
Yeah, had me working on cars, changing oil, brake jobs, and so I was always under a car or working on a car in some regard. You know, when he was in his later years, he asked me to forgive him because he knew he had been tough. And I said to him, "What are you talking about? Asking for forgiveness? Are you out of your mind? You know, look what I am today. I'm a council member. I had a great police career. You know, why would you dare think you needed to be forgiven?" And he said, "You know, because I know I was hard." And I said, "Yeah, Dad, but if you weren't, imagine where I would have been. Imagine where 5 boys could have ended up in circumstances." The influences were out there. So I give all the credit to my mom and dad. My dad was a hard-working guy, and had a very, very spiritual way of being. He couldn't recite any verse in the Bible, but the way he lived and handled himself was really biblical. Yeah.
Ulysses, how did you get into this business?
Arnold, I started washing dishes when I was in high school and I never got out. I was part of the opening team of the first Papacitos on the face of the planet.
Oh, wow.
And now, you know, I've been in the business almost 40 years, so you can imagine that back then.
How long were you with Papacito?
Almost 9 years.
Because that's an incredible education.
That's exactly. That's where I got my training. I went to the University of Houston, but I didn't feel the need to study hotel and restaurant management because I was getting hands-on training.
Yeah. It
From
wasn't
Chris,
book.
Chris and Harris.
Yeah.
Which are amazing restaurateurs and that. So yeah, I learned the business there. Went on to Carrabba's. And Johnny and Damien taught me a lot about food and Italian food. And then I worked for the Palm for a few years. Became a director of ops and traveled a lot. He says he's looking forward to traveling. I couldn't do it after a while. It's glamorous at first, but and then my wife and I in 2006 said let's just do our own. We've been here 17 years.
Was she in the restaurant business?
I met her at Papacito. She was a manager at another store, and we met at a Christmas party. Yeah, that's another story.
Good old Papacito Christmas party.
You know how many couples have come out of that?
Really?
So many of us that met there and married our partners at... Yeah, because there's a lot of people out there that went through the chain. I don't know how many restaurants they have now, but...
No, they're a great company. Great organization.
They're everywhere.
They're spoken very highly of.
They taught me systems. They taught me a lot of stuff. I can't really cover.
So as you were in school working for Papacitos, washing dishes very young, Papacitos, Carrabba's, Palm, and then your own place, right?
Yeah. The washing dishes was at a cafeteria, a Marriott cafeteria inside of Texas Instruments.
Oh wow!
In Sugarland. In Sugarland.
No kidding.
Yeah. The chain, people dropping their trays. I just got the bug, man. I love the energy. I love the. So.
But nobody can say you can't wash dishes.
No, I've worked every position, but which is what you need to do in this business. Too many people get into the restaurant business. They don't really understand every side. And I completely discourage that. You really need to understand.
I agree. I had a friend that wanted to start this business. I won't tell you what it was, but I said, I wouldn't start any business that you didn't work in it for. Yeah. To learn it, to understand it, and see if that's really what you want to do.
If you want to open a coffee shop, you better get a job at
I worked 18 years before I opened Petra for another company, a very large company, right? You started as a janitor.
Yeah,
Working for, dealerships and working your way up through the system.
You see it from the bottom.
So you gotta do what you do.
Okay, so what's next? What's the next in the JR move?
Yeah, so what's crazy is this would probably be where you and I start to cross paths, because I'm sitting in Cleveland as the executive producer of the WKYC morning show, and I always had a proclivity and a real drive, a real pull in faith with God. And like it had never, like, since the time I was 7 to that point in my life, I had always been driven that way. Now, I wasn't a church guy. Like, I got to make that real clear, because I think some people hear my story and they think I grew up in church. I didn't grow up denominationally. I didn't grow up evangelically, non-denominationally. I essentially called myself, a guy who was raised in the Christian barn out back. So, but I always had this real desire to love God. And I don't know where that propellant has come from. And I don't question it. I never questioned it. I never needed to give it a name. I never needed to have necessarily a theology to it, although I do now. And so I'm sitting in the newsroom one afternoon, and I read an article about 2 guys in Southern California that would later become very good friends of mine, that were starting what was called XXX Church. And I just chuckled. I laughed at it as I read the article. And basically their mission was to kind of bring to light, at the time, this is early 2000, what pornography was doing kind of to the American church. Like, they were in a church in Southern California, and they were noticing kids in their youth groups, like, starting this march into pornography. And they were like, let's do something about it. So this fledgling little group, XXX Church, caught my attention that day, and I was hooked. Like, I needed to know everything that they were doing. So that started a real march over the next couple months, 3 months or so, where I would end up meeting these guys, and we would end up really joining arms. And another guy that lived here at the time, the 4 of us, would end up joining arms and then build out XXX Church. So again, you want to talk about fork in the road or crazy left turn in people's lives, or, however you want to do that. That was really formative.
That is a crazy left turn.
It's crazy. Arnold, my boss looked at me. No,
but God does crazy left turns often.
No, yeah, crazy left, crazy right, crazy forks. I mean, it's not like, I tell people, if you really want to get nutty on the story of God, you don't got to get too far in the scriptures before you go, this is insane. I mean, just the premise, the New Testament premise, just the Gospels alone, you read it and you go, this is insane. This is crazy.
So I was very much in the exploring what's next phase, and I get an email through LinkedIn from a recruiter at Comcast that said, hey, your name came up in a conversation. We'd love to talk to you. And Arnold, I ignored the email for a week because I'm not that smart about it.
No, I wouldn't do that.
I think about it, and I just wasn't in that headspace. And I think about it, I go, you know what, Alex, don't be dumb. At least have the conversation. I'd never worked in telecommunications before. I'd never worked in that industry. So, on the surface, it was a stretch. But I thought, okay, shoot, if they reach out to me, let's at least entertain the conversation. So have the conversation with the recruiter, and it was actually somebody within the company that recommended that they speak to me. It's somebody that there was a former city team member that I'd left to work for Comcast, and they said, look, go talk to Alex. So have the conversation with the recruiter, and I was intrigued by the opportunity. Obviously, it's a big company, a Fortune 50 company, strong balance sheet. It was an intriguing opportunity. But I asked her, I go, why are you talking to me? I don't work in telecommunications. I've never worked in telecommunications. And she said, we're looking for the right person. We're looking for the right fit. So we'll teach you the business. We need somebody that obviously has the financial acumen, but we'll teach you the industry. We're just looking for the right fit. And I go, okay, I'll go. So count me in. So go through the process. I went through a very lengthy interview process, as you might imagine, for a role like that. And for the first 5 interviews, I asked the same question: Why are you talking to me? And I got the consistent answer: is that we're looking for the right person.
They're looking at culture more than anything.
That's exactly right. So the further along,
which is the right way to hire.
100%. Your biggest asset is your people and your customers, but it's all people oriented. So that very much resonated with me. I said, I'm going to go work for a company that values its people and values the cultural fit, then it's probably a place that I want to invest myself into. And it was a risk for them, obviously, to bring somebody from outside of the industry to come into that role. But it was a risk for me, too, to step into a role where I didn't necessarily know the industry.
Unique, and that is that he gives a rookie council member 2 chairmanships. And so I'm the chair of the Public Safety and Homeland Security Committee. And then I'm the chair of the Minority Women Business Enterprise Committee. And then ultimately, he appoints me as his mayor pro tem. And then I receive a unanimous vote by members of council.
And how long did you do that for? So from councilman to vice mayor, how long?
That was a total of 5 years, because that's when I run for sheriff.
So you did. So now we're at 28 years. Adrian, you're older than I think. Don't tell me your age. But I thought you were my age. I mean, I think
I'm younger than you.
I guess not, because I've been in this for 34 years. So I guess not. We're only at year 28. All right. So you're at year 28, and you decide to run for sheriff.
I run for sheriff, and it was, I didn't think I could win. Didn't think I would win. But another God moment. I'm on the ballot with a young man named Barack Obama, and we sweep this county. I become the first Latino sheriff in the history of the county, and I end up receiving more votes than Barack Obama did.
So obviously you had that bug. It was in your blood. You've gone through this career span. You're moving up in that world, and all of a sudden you read an article, and you must walk into somebody's office and go, "Hey, it's been fun, but I'm going to go over here."
Yeah, so I came home that day, and I really this was real formative. I mean, it was really something that was like yesterday for me. I went home that day, and I kind of told my wife Diane, we have always had a movement in our marriage in 31 years where people show up at the door. Like, we've never not had that, which ends up what we do today. But we've never not had people on the couch, in the kitchen, and in some kind of transformative kind of divergence or fork in their own road, and they've always wound up at our door. My wife is wonderfully nurturing. As you know me a little bit, you know that I can be very straightforward with people. So that mix is always done well for us when people are seeking kind of solace or nurturing. So when I tell my wife that, she doesn't blink. And what I mean is when I go, "Hey, this is something that I think is stirring in me." Now, I wouldn't call it a call at that point. It was just a stirring. So she was very encouraging, and my wife is crazy like that too. Much more practical, but I tend to be like, let's jump out of the plane, and then somebody go, "Hey, you have to put the parachute on." But right. So at that point, it was like, let's have discovery on what it means to leave television and go do something like this. I didn't know it would end up being XXX Church necessarily, but that was a real pivotal moment. So when I met those guys a few months later, I knew that it would be time. And then it was probably 6 to 8 months later, I handed in my resignation, and literally people thought I was insane because I was walking into no money. Like, I was making, in television, at an executive level or at a management level, you're making money. And when you're in your mid to late 30s and you're making that kind of money, and you got a house and you got cars and you got everything you need, like, people looked at me like I was insane. Like, I was foregoing benefits. I was foregoing safety, right? Security.
But you know as well as I do.
Oh, yeah.
You wouldn't sell a single automobile or if you didn't have the right people.
No, 100%. No matter what you say.
So I think the staff that I have is what makes us who we are. It's the people. It's the regulars that come in and ask for Carlos, ask for Alma, ask for Gabby. They ask for their favorites. And it's been 17 years of that. And it's just the hospitality, the treatment.
17 years, same location?
We've been here since
Says a
06.
lot, right?
We've been here since 06. So these guys, they get that we can't afford to lose anybody in the slowest day. And of course, if I'm here shaking hands and kissing babies, and Maria's here running food, and we're here hands-on, it lets them know, okay, we need to be engaged, and hospitality is a core value. I have 5 core values. Hospitality is one of them. and we always talk about this because hospitality is one of them, not just to them, but also amongst ourselves. You know, so respect, hospitality, honesty, consistency, and teamwork. Those five. And I always tell, like Alex, I say, I want the same Alex every day. You want the same Ulysses every day.
Right.
So
Exactly.
I need you to be the same Alex daily. You can't come in one day low, the next day high. I don't mean high.
No. It's game day.
Yeah. So many times I've said, you guys need to be here today like it was the first day we opened. You remember that excitement when we opened in 06? October 16, 2006. That excitement needs to be today after 17 years. So that creates an environment of...
And because excitement is contagious.
It is,
I say that in my
absolutely.
office too, right? People walk into our element, they'll feel the momentum, they'll feel the excitement.
Yeah.
Or the opposite.
Right. The energy is very palpable, and your customers pick it up. Our clientele is very smart.
Today we were meeting in this room how to build a veterans park that will be second to none. A park I helped to create when I was on city council. The city did very little with it, so Mayor Turner has let me manage it, and I'm about to pump $15 million into it to make it a state of art type of veterans memorial project. It's going to come with, I hope, in the near future, veterans housing, which all was a vision of the Vietnam veterans who I met with and would sit with in 2004, who were demanding this type of respect. And so I have boots in my office from Richard Pettis, who was the lead commando, if you will, working on that project. And since I still remember all this, all these veterans unfortunately have since passed, but I still remember. And that's what I tell folks that we met in this room. I remember what they wanted, and I'm going to work hard.
It's still in your heart.
Yeah, I'm going to work hard to deliver it.
So you're starting now your 6th year
Yeah,
as
correct.
commissioner?
Yeah.
What's next for Adrian?
I love this job because,
You're not going to tell me, are you?
no, look, I'm telling you, look, I'm ambitious.
Your biggest asset is your people and your customers, but it's all people oriented. So that very much resonated with me. I said, I'm going to go work for a company that values its people and values the cultural fit, then it's probably a place that I want to invest myself into. And it was a risk for them, obviously, to bring somebody from outside of the industry to come into that role. But it was a risk for me, too, to step into a role where I didn't necessarily know the industry.
My wife and I, or even particularly me, were in conversations with people that were leading to solace and peace and really rest in the Lord, not rest in me, but rest in God. And that really, it did something to me that has probably in my life has never really spurred me on passionately. So I would end up going into a certification training program with Larry Crabb. Many people know Larry Crabb. He's kind of considered the godfather, the grandfather of Christian psychology. He was early on. He was a Dan Allender guy. Him and Dan Allender formed some stuff together, and then they would end up doing different things. But I would end up going to Larry Crabb's School of Spiritual Direction, and Larry Crabb and Cheryl would really help me really define and hone in on the practice of spiritual direction. So, and it's basically the idea of becoming a really damn good listener and really holding discernment in conversations. So I would get certified. And then once I got certified and all buttoned up and sewed up, because people like to know that, right? People like to know that you're not just some lunatic with a shingle outside. I kind of cracked open Tabletop and then started taking on clients one-on-one. And the craziest thing happened, which is people started to call and knock on the door and want time. Not because I'm a good guy, Arnold, and I say this all the time, and you've probably heard me say it, not because I'm a good guy, but because God is enormous and he loves his creation, and he really does want to hold form and hold function and hold place in their lives. Like we're in a season of Advent right now, right? And Advent is this time where we're anticipating, things coming. And as we anticipate things coming, they're in here and we really start to feel them. And if you give yourself time to do that with people, it is a reality. It is certainly something that, that has a real skin and bone and heart and soul to it. So that's what we do. So Tabletop comes out and says, hey, we provide spiritual direction. The other thing we do is we form a nonprofit under it, because we realize that not everybody has resources to be able to do traditional counseling, therapy, any kind of mental health conditioning, right? Not everybody has those resources. If you don't have insurance and you're staring down the barrel of $100 session fee, you're probably not going to do it. And if you're minded spiritually and you want deeper connection with Christ and you want those kind of conversations, those are pay for play too. So we were like, no, we are never going to turn anybody away. So we formed a nonprofit. We put a sliding scale up because nonprofits can charge for services. And then we said, we don't care. You pay what you want to pay or don't pay. And we marched into that. And again, people looked at us like, you are absolutely insane. And that's how we know we're doing it right. When people look at us and again,
you can't do this. Yeah.
When we hear that, Arnold, we know we over the course of our marriage, whenever we hear that, we know navigationally where we're headed. So, and the craziest thing happened, not only did donors show up to help those people that come to the ministry, Tabletop, without resources, but then paying clients showed up.
We're graduating people through our workforce division initiatives into being certified Adobe web design individuals, certified administrative medical assistants, certified administrative legal assistants, and now they're going to be able to command better paying jobs. We're dealing with environmental issues that unfortunately have plagued the precinct. We're investing in the infrastructure. I have a number that I'm proud of, and it's growing every day. Since 2019, we have invested $665 million in some form or another, whether through the flood control district, through the toll road, through general fund, into precinct 2 projects, whether it be human capital projects or community capital improvement projects.
There's a vulnerability in our culture that we don't necessarily sit on as a strength. So most of the time when we're talking about leadership, we're not talking about vulnerability. We're talking about power or the ability to move or build. And that vulnerability word gets left to the wayside, which when you're not vulnerable, loneliness is going to be a part of the deal for you. So part of the thing that we do on taking on either our church leaders or those people that are in executive roles or leading businesses is to help people understand that the more vulnerable you are, not only with yourself, God, but also the community, the intimate community you have, because I'm not talking about broadcasting your crap on a billboard on the side of the highway, obviously, but the more vulnerable you are, the more undefended you become. And when you become undefended, you become more Christ-centric. Christ was very undefended. Christ didn't argue. Christ didn't need to philosophize about the next great cultural movement. Christ was very emphatic. Christ was very endearing to love. He was very compassionate, very nurturing, but also very straightforward. He understood missionally what his creation meant to him, and he was there to serve. And so vulnerability becomes his capstone to what he erects in love. And that's something that we love to teach. That's something that we love people to listen to and hear and deeply move in. And, it's funny because when you become undefended as a leader, and again, this is not for leader people too, but when you become undefended as a leader, you become so free that your success, doubles, triples, and again, I'm not, what I'm not saying is spiritual direction leads to, success. What I'm saying is spiritual direction leads to peace and undefense. Again, I can tell you what the country needs, right? I can go, oh, the country needs, here's my list. But I won't do that because there's too many people proselytizing like that right now. What I can say is this. What I can say is if you decide to tell on yourself, you will find the greatest freedom you've ever had.
Those are the little points I'm talking about. That's great. It's a great way to end it as well. JR,
Yeah.
appreciate you, man. Love you.
You too,
Thank you
Arnold.
for being on. And,
Thank you, buddy.
I'm sure we'll do this again. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, we will. Thanks, man.
Thank you for listening to Wheels, Deals, and Meals, your main source for all things good and fun, business, food, and cars. If you like this episode, make sure to rate us and subscribe. If you would like to be a guest on our show, please leave a message at the link below. Till next time, happy eating!